Ever had a client who wanted everything done fast, but refused to pay for the time? I was working on a custom software project for a major client. The contract was time and materials, which meant I logged my hours, billed accordingly, and got paid for the time I actually worked. There was no fixed price, no shortcuts, just detailed time tracking and progress reports. At first, everything ran smoothly. Weekly check-ins, clear goals, and consistent updates. They were happy, I was happy, and the project looked great. But slowly, they began adding more requests. One week, it was a new feature. The next, it was a complete redesign of a section we'd already finished. Every time they made a change, I explained exactly how much extra time it would take. They didn't mind, at least not at first. They said they wanted everything done before the end of the year and didn't care about the cost. But by October, it was obvious the workload was growing faster than anyone expected. So I talked to my manager. I told him that if they truly wanted everything ready before their big end-of-year presentation, I'd need to dedicate myself full-time to the project. He agreed, reassigned my other clients, and let me focus completely on theirs. For the next month, I worked between 45 and 50 hours a week, pushing hard to deliver everything on time. I sent regular updates, delivered working builds, and even got ahead on a few tasks. Then, the trouble started. After a few weeks, the client suddenly complained about the billing. They said we were charging too much. I showed them the logs, which listed every half-hour segment of my work, every change request, every test session. They didn't dispute the accuracy. They just didn't like the total. I explained that because I was working full-time, we were progressing faster. The more I worked, the sooner they'd get their product, but they didn't like that logic. They told me, very firmly, that going forward, they would not pay for more than 20 hours per week, period. I warned them that cutting my hours in half meant cutting their progress in half. They didn't care. They said to put it in writing or they'd cancel the project. So, my manager, who's excellent at staying polite under pressure, sent a very professional email confirming the change. He even attached a spreadsheet showing how the 20-hour limit would affect the delivery schedule. Based on the remaining work, the earliest completion date would move well past their end-of-year deadline. The client acknowledged the email and even thanked us for being transparent. So we did exactly what they asked. The next week, my schedule shifted. I worked 20 hours for them and filled the rest of my week with 2 new projects from other clients. The company was happy. My manager was happy. And honestly, I was too. It was nice not to be working overtime anymore. Then the client started to notice. At our next meeting, they asked why a certain feature wasn't ready yet. I reminded them that I was now working half the time. 2 weeks later, another delay frustrated them. I pointed to the revised timeline we'd already shared. By December, panic had set in. They asked if I could squeeze in some extra hours to meet their presentation deadline. I told them it wasn't possible. Even if I worked every single day, there just weren't enough days left before year end to finish all 60 remaining days of work. That led to a big meeting between both companies. My manager opened it perfectly. "Can you explain why the project is behind schedule?" he asked me in front of them. I calmly said, "Back in October, I estimated 60 days of work left. Since then, I've been limited to 20 hours a week, about 10 working days per month. I've finished roughly 20 days worth so far. That leaves 40 days to go. It's December. There simply aren't enough work days left in the calendar." My manager nodded. "That sounds accurate." The client looked completely stunned, as if this was new information. But every warning, every estimate, every update was in writing. They'd chosen not to believe it because it didn't match what they wanted to hear. When the end of the year came, the project still wasn't finished. Their presentation had to be postponed. Their leadership was furious and demanded we assign another developer or have me return full-time immediately. My manager said no. We had 2 other clients depending on us, and we weren't about to jeopardize those relationships for someone who ignored every explanation we'd given. By January, I was still putting in my 20 hours a week. The project was crawling forward, but it was entirely on their terms. They even started complaining again about how long each task was taking, despite having forced the limitation that caused the delay. And yet, we still got paid for every single hour. They wanted to pay for 20 hours of work a week. That's exactly what they got. 20 hours of progress, 20 hours of updates, and 20 hours of polite professionalism. The deadlines, the panic, and the frustration, all of that came free of charge.